Welcome, investigator. Evil is on the rise. Crime is escalating. Our mission is to eliminate the crime by exposing evil, examine why it manifests, and highlight the brave souls that confront it every day. Join us as we work together to bring justice to every victim. Welcome to All Things Crime. Here's your host, Jared Bradley.
They did.
So
And that's
what do you think the agents down in El Salvador, Ecuador did?
Yeah. So my understanding is, and I don't have this substantiated, but this came through, is that he was wanted for murder down in El Salvador. I would guess walking this thing backwards is what they did. Was the attack happens and they did a phone dump from the cellular towers and saw who is accounted for and who is unaccounted for. And from those unaccounted for people, who is not in the area anymore. If somebody has fled the area, that's going to be suspect number one. Scott said very adroitly that you start at the center and you eliminate those people. So we eliminate family members right away and we begin to work outward. And who could possibly be that suspect pool? I would say they probably worked off the phone. And if you're not getting that phone hit and somebody is smart enough to block that phone or turn it off, and the phone is registering at other times, what's going on? Because fortunately for this attack, it's a remote area. So you only have so many cell sites that are going to log on to that. From that, you're having very sharp analysts and using some AI to develop that profile of the phone. And then what phone was registering out in Los Angeles. So that would be my guess on how they got onto this initially. And then you import that and mesh that up with the DNA profiles. But if we go down to South America, or if we get a name, El Salvador, and the police there are good enough to say, yeah, this guy's a murderer. We know he's a bad boy, all the way back to age, and you're talking like age 15. And I'm talking to the other cops out here that have worked this the entire lives, and the agents that have done search these predators and these panthers is what I'm talking about. These are the guys. And let me break for a second. My mom was a crime scene technician. She put me on to a specific person in South Florida named Michael Siebert. He killed this woman, beat her. He didn't kill the first one in Hollywood, but he later killed this lady when he was released 10 years later, less than a year later. But these are the type of people that are handed down over time that says, watch them. And this is a legacy of when you work this violent crime. This is what happened to me, and what changed me is now, how could I go back to working bookkeeping or administrative work when you see what happened to these two victims over here? The same thing with this guy. And probably my point on this is El Salvador told them this has been a bad boy for years. And now he's up in your neck of the woods. He's up in the United States, and he's become your problem real quickly. So yeah, no tired huddle masses coming into the United States. Send those, your wretched refuse. Isn't that what the title is? Nah, we're sending you serial killers and rapists. This is what happened in this case.
Yeah, well, they're clearing out their prisons. They're sending like Venezuela. I guarantee Venezuela is sending. They're probably letting people out of their prisons and saying, "You cannot stay here. We will let you out of this prison if you go to the United States. If you just leave. The United States is obviously the place where everybody wants to come anyway. And so, yeah, they're clearing out their mental hospitals, their prisons, everything. They're getting rid of all their the underlying criminal aspect of their population, and they're sending them all here. And yeah, out of the 10 million plus that have come up here in the last 3 years, are they all criminals? No. But you know what? Out of all the people that were here in the United States at 9/11, 20 of them brought down the Twin Towers and the Pentagon. So it doesn't take a lot of them, folks. We have these rapists and murderers that are walking through. And again, back to what I first started with, it's all avoidable. None of this is there's no reason for any of it other than the people in Washington, D.C. want the chaos and the pain and suffering that is being caused right now. And that's what actually pisses me off the most, is just because I'm like, you know what? We actually have, quote, quote, leaders in our country that are doing this on purpose. And that, to me, that's the equivalent of, again, going back to my city, and trying to get these permits that I'm trying to do for the shop that I'm trying to build. Well, not only, so that's like those guys saying, not only Do you have to go through all of these hoops to get this approved on your own land? Um, I just sometimes I just have to laugh about it because I'm like, really? Okay, so this is where we're at now, where a law-abiding citizen has to do all this crap, and yet, and it's kind of like them also telling me, yeah, we'll approve this after you've done all this paperwork and paid the fine or paid the fees and everything, and you cannot lock your front door. So from now on, you have to take all the locks off your house.
Yeah, let's do it.
And
Let's do another analogy like this.
yeah,
Okay, back when people used to go to the movies, you're sitting online in the movies waiting to go see this great movie and everything else, and somebody brings their family in and they were holding them in line. That's fair enough. Who's got a problem with that? And then more people come over. Well, then another set of friends come over, and soon now you're 20 places back and you're a little bit annoyed about it. Okay, at what point are you going to say something? But now you go in and say your line number 30 or 40 in there, you walk in this big theater, and then you find out there was a whole nother line and all the seats are taken up by people who didn't pay. How about that? Would that infuriate everybody? So the point is, you're not the only one that's pissed off. Everybody's pissed off right now. And now it's come full circle. We have all these people out here that are running around doing this kind of madness over here with no accountability. And the thing is, as I was saying before, you come to the United States, you agree to a set of laws, you abide by the law, and whether you like it or not, that's the law. And you know, there's things that nobody likes, but we cannot drive around without a license plate on a car. You cannot drive around on a dirt bike with no license plate or a speed bike with nothing on it, with no accountability. And it's all fun and games to run from the cops and everything else till you hit somebody and you kill them, which is what just happened in New York. Or now you have an accident where you slam into somebody who pays their insurance diligently and everyone's insurance goes up. So at what point are we going to lower the insurance rates and hold the people accountable for those police chases? The amount of damage that's going on when they slam into these cars and everything else, and nobody's held accountable for this stuff. They seem to just write it all off. Well, you know, everything is going up in price, insurance and everything else. And at what point are you going to hit a tipping point where somebody's going to say, now, hopefully the people, the reset, you know, the balancing out just goes, okay, this is enough. But what I was saying before is people are seething. They're angry about this and they see this stuff going on. And if it's your own family member and this is Hartford, and I know people who are there who chimed in with their comments about this. They're upset about that, and it's their own backyard, and they try to keep things clean and nice, and you know, and this is any town USA, and this could be 37 years old with children.
yeah.
That could be anybody. Who
Well,
got it.
you know, it's not very often that a sheriff will actually call out Washington, but I want to read this when they gave the press conference, you know, about catching this guy that killed Rachel Morin. It says right here, the sheriff turned his attention to the crisis at the southern border, directing his remarks to the White House and to, quote, both members of both, it should be houses of Congress, but both members of Congress. He said, we are 1,800 miles off the southern border. And his name's Sheriff Galler, it says. And American citizens are not safe because of their failed immigration policies. This is the second time in 2 years that an innocent Harford County woman has lost her life to a criminal in our country illegally. He said, repeating his statement. In both cases, they are suspects from El Salvador with ties to criminal gangs. This should not be happening. He says the guy's name, did not come to this country to make a better life for him or his family. He came here to escape the crimes he committed in El Salvador. He came here to murder Rachel and, God willing, no one else. He said, but that should have never been allowed to happen. And you know what? Amen. And kudos to that sheriff for calling out the people in Washington, D.C. or setting all this policy. And, you know, it just, I did a couple of podcasts a couple of years ago, and I called them, the beast, I can't even remember now. my own podcast, I can't even remember the stupid title of it.
We've done 300 of them, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, 400 actually. And no, I guess, but as far as like full episodes, there's like 300. So, you know, I hope anybody that's listening or watching, you go out and hopefully you can enjoy some of those. But Evil, the Beast, and the Buffet. That's what the series that I kind of did was. And frankly, the Beast is basically what the people in Washington D.C. have created, because the Beast is this monster that is devouring the country. It's devouring each of us individually. It's devouring the rule of law. It's devouring any semblance of humanity. Like you were saying, Tom, it's like people are just seething. There's so much anger out there now because of these unaccountable, not just unaccountable criminals, but unaccountable politicians that you just think of all the people that allowed this animal to come in and not only rape or not only assault the people in California, the mom and her 9-year-old in California, but also then eventually murder Rachel Morin. The people that allowed that to happen, how are we going to hold them accountable? And the first problem is it's so intertwined and intertangled. Like Secretary Mayorkas, that guy is as slimy as it gets, because you ever watch him in front of Congress, he is that guy is so good. I mean, it makes me want to go have to go take a shower after just listening to the guy. He's so slimy, but it's holding him accountable is almost impossible. Well, the interesting thing about that is, what in the world are we going to do in order to change it? Well, the only thing we honestly can do is vote them out. That's the only way we can actually hold them accountable, is to get them out of there. And this coming November, I hope everybody remembers exactly what has happened here with not only Rachel Morin, but all the other victims that we talked about earlier. And even this latest one, this Jocelyn Nungary, 12 years old, a 12-year-old little girl, raped and murdered by 2 Venezuelan men. I mean, imagine the horror that this little girl, and you think about 12-year-olds. My youngest is not far, he's 13. And so basically, but I mean, officially, I think he's still 12. I got to check. Geez, man, be nice if I could remember the age of my own kids. But, all of us know a 12-year-old girl, whether it's a neighbor or a niece, a little sister, all of us listening knows a little 12-year-old. You know how innocent they can be. And here this girl is raped by 2 men. And they're probably speaking Spanish at the same time, so that she doesn't even understand them. She doesn't know who these guys are. And that's the last thing that she remembers on this earth. And the horror that this poor little girl went through. So based on that, how are we going to hold these people accountable?
Yeah, and it starts small. So the sheriff, he takes ownership of this. When one of these things happen, that's even the contiguous cities, even in the entire state, everybody starts looking into this. I can remember a particularly heinous attack that took place down in Fort Lauderdale in the 1990s. Somebody walked by someone else with a cooler full of acid, and he poured it on the other guy, a revenge thing that was ultimately solved over there. But yeah, you want to talk about a slow, miserable death on this guy, and that's right. How can anything be much worse than that? That's what he did. All agencies were working this. Adam Walsh, all agencies were working this. Andrew Cunanan, all agencies were working this. And that was very similar to this, only we knew who Andrew Cunanan was, and we didn't have DNA. But in this case, when you have something as heinous as this, the entire police department works it. And those detectives and those investigators and that chain of command is basically staying in there and falling asleep at their desks trying to work this and generate leads, because things go cold and they go dry. Now, fortunately, we have better forensics and databasing and things like that. So there's a lot more leads other than just trying to sweat somebody and get them to give up something in an interview. But this is what these guys live with. And they're fine taking on that charter because these are good people, these guys who swear to take an oath of allegiance to work that, and they work as police officers. So what skews that? when they find out the system's not fair. They get in there and you finding out you have no accountability of this person. It's as simple as somebody running through one of those red light cameras and they put a shield on the back of their. Why would you put a shield on the back of your license plate other than to evade a traffic ticket? Hey, who wants to get a traffic ticket? Who wants to get a speeding ticket, or, who wants to not pay tolls? Anybody. And at what point does everybody start saying, well, if they're not paying, I'm not paying? Well, this is where we're at. And this is what we're talking about, Jared, is the seething and this anger, this underbelly of anger over here. So we're about to hit a tipping point where people are going to say, no more, no more on that. That's a dangerous time. So we want cooler heads to prevail over here, where we're not becoming informants on each other, things like this. But folks, we got to get it together here, and we got to start, being accountable. We agreed to a set of laws, and that's what it's got to be.
Yeah, 100%. But I'm just saying that the problem is we typically, we'll turn our anger against each other, and that's not the right target. The target is the people that are setting the policy. What's the old adage that says an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? Far, far too many of us are looking at that pound of cure, whereas we should be saying, okay, the prevention is what should have been happening. And those that didn't do it need to be held accountable. And a big part of being held accountable is just kicking them out of office, getting them out of there. I mean, if people are setting bad policy, and it doesn't matter what level they're at, whether it's the president of the United States or the mayor of your town or a city councilman, or somebody that's on the school board, if they are advocating bad policies, the recourse that we have is to get them out of office. Well, there are far, far too many people that are just sitting back thinking that, well, somebody else will do it. It is time, folks, and this is our call to action. It is time to get involved. I guarantee you there's probably people out there listening to us right now that have never voted, probably in their 40s and 50s, and they've never voted. Well, you have an opportunity right now. There's primaries going on, and then after that is the general election. You have the chance to make your voice heard. And frankly, I think people should do even more than that. They should be standing up, going to city council meetings, getting involved with their state representative, and getting involved with their congressman, senator, sending letters to everything. It's like, if we as a citizenry do not get involved, then more and more of this, you think it's bad now, folks. I'm telling you, it can get worse, and it will get worse if we don't actually start taking back our country and taking it by the reins, because there are people out there that hate the United States that are actually here. And it's not just foreigners. There are people in this country, and we're kind of on a tangent here, but I'm telling you, I'm going to keep going, because there are people in this country that hate the United States. They hate everything it stands for. They hate the freedom that we have. They hate the fact that the Constitution gives us as individual rights, and it's not just from the Constitution, it's from the Almighty God that give us rights that we say are unalienable. I didn't even say that right. They sounding like Joe Biden. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay. What is the word?
Inalienable.
Inalienable.
Am I saying it? I got that one in my head now.
Man, now we're both screwed up. But anyway, and I was on such a good roll. What is wrong with me? My tongue just won't work this morning. But I'm telling you, these rights are from God. They cannot take them away from us. And well, they can take them away from us if we allow them, but they are not granted by the government. And that's the biggest problem. The people in Washington, D.C. right now believe that they are the ones that are the arbiters of whatever rights they want to give us. And, there's no man that should be able to have anywhere close to that amount of power. It is God that gives us that power. And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand our entire system, our republic. And in fact, here's another thing, folks. Anybody that says our democracy is in danger, they are the problem, because we are not a democracy. If you live in the United States, you live under a constitutional republic. That is different. And if you don't know the difference, then do the research. and look at the difference. Democracy is mob rule. Democracy is 50.1% votes on it, and that's the rule. A constitutional republic means that the individual has the rights. So let's just get that out there first. Well, the bottom line is let's circle back to where we started here. People that are breaking our laws, and these are all laws that we all adhere to and we all agreed to, like what Tom has said earlier. If you live in a society, there are certain rules that have been established. This goes all the way back to caveman days, where the people of the cave decided on a certain number of rules, and they're probably just a family. That's how it started. But as society grows, you have to decide on certain rules that you're going to live by. And if you're not willing to live by those rules, then get out. Well, we have certain laws and certain rules that we live by. And part of those rules is being in a constitutional republic. The individual has the rights. And the government cannot take those rights away. Tom, go ahead.
Thanks for joining us. Your attention today brings us one step closer to exposing and eliminating the evil that brings crime to our communities. Hit subscribe and share this episode. Together, we will bring justice to every victim.